Chief among them was the shrine for the goddess, the consort of the main deity. Pavilions and pillared halls were added to provide for special rituals, of which the most colorful was the symbolic celebration of the wedding day of the deity with the consort. The structures dedicated to the ritual was Kalanya Mandapa, an open pillared pavilion executed in a highly ornate style, raised on a low platform. It had a throne set in the center on which the processional deities were placed for worship. The Kalisthana temple, Kanchi, built by Narasimha Varman II, early 8th century. This temple incorporated all characteristics native to Pallava style. The pyramidal tower, a pillared hall, and vestibule, all enclosed by a wall surmounted by cupolas. The Vaikuntha Perumal temple, Kanchi, built by Nandi Varman II. This temple is a more mature example of Pallava style and shows a greater unity of conception than the Kailashanatha temple. Pillared corridor with sculptured panels on the wall of the Vaikuntha Perumal temple, Kanchi. Vimana towered sanctuary of the Brihadeshwara temple, 990 feet, nearly 58 meters high. This tower is the greatest achievement of the Chola builder. It has compelling sense of power and masculine dignity. The temple was built by Rajaraja the Great, 985 to 1018. Brihadeshwara temple, Tanjore general view. Vimana of the Shiva temple at the Gangaikonda Cholapuram. It was built by Rajendra Chola in AD 1025 to commemorate this victorious expedition in the river Ganga. Tripurantaka, Chola bronze of the 11th century. The Tanjore Art Gallery, cast by what is known as lost wax process. Most of the ancient South Indian bronzes were the creations of highly specialized craftsmen known as sthapatis. These images were used as utsava murtis or festival deities. Nataraja, a sculptured panel from the great temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram. The florid character of the Vijayanagara temple was achieved largely by converting the pillars and piers into the highly complicated sanctuary with human figures, roaring animals, and divine and semi-divine beings dexterously chiseled in solid block of stone. These pillars are conspicuous part of the architectural scheme of the pavilion. Another common type of Vijayanagara pillar was one in which the central shaft was surrounded by a group of slender miniature pillars, all emerging from the same ornamented base. Still another type was the one in which the main shaft consisted of a series of miniature shrines rising up, one upon another as in a tower, but without its tempering quality. Whatever the molding of the pillar was provided with ornamental brackets which formed part of the capital. These brackets had below them elaborately carved flower pendant resembling an inverted lotus bud. Temple belonging to Vijayanagara type are to be found all over South India where the Dravidian type predominates. The most exquisite example of this group are to be found in the deserted capital of Vijayanagara itself, was popularly known as Hampi, hardly 8 kilometers from Hospet. The present site of Tungabhadra Dam, Hampi, presents the forlorn look of a city in ruins. The surviving structure, which consists mostly of temples and a few secular buildings, are the only mangled remnants of what was, according to contemporary chroniclers, the finest and the most populous of the cities in the 16th century India. Rocky and barren, with huge boulders sticking out singly or in heaps from the ground everywhere, this deserted city of victory hardly recaptures the green verdure of fields and gardens with which it was once reputed to have been clothed. But Hampi is not altogether devoid of charm. Like Mallapuram, it retains its unique importance for the tourist and the historian. By far, the finest monuments of this ruined city are Vithala and Hazara Rama Temple, built in the 16th century. The Vihala temple, dedicated to a Vithala, form of Vishnu, is the more ornate of the two. Its construction was begun by the Vijayanagara king Krishnadeva Raya in 1513 and continued during his successor's time. It was still incomplete when the capital city was sacked and pillaged by victorious Muslim conciliation in 1565. The temple is a unified structure standing in a courtyard 152 meters by 94 meters. A triple now of pillars surround the courtyard. The three entrances leading into the courtyard, east, south, and north, are surmounted by gopurams. The central building dedicated to Vithala consists of one story, 7.6-meter high. The temple has three components: the Garbhagriha, sanctuary, the Mandapa, closed assembly hall in the middle, and the Ardha Mandapa, open pillared portico in front. The visitor is first attracted to the portico with its voluptuous double flexured eave. It is a columned pavilion of considerable dimensions built on the plinth, 1.5 meters high. Its 56 pillars, each 3.7 meters high, are hewn out of solid blocks of granite to form intricate compositions of sculptures. The designs of which these spires consist are basically the same in conception, but they have been so skillfully employed that they produce an unusual effect or rhythm. The piers are each 1 or 1.5 meters across, and each face contains a group of sculptures which consist of different and altering compositions. These alternating designs rise from a common ornamented pedestal and terminate in a single massive capital. The sculpture composition on the shaft of the pillar take the form of a cluster of delicately carved pillars or the figures of divinities in their various animated forms or rearing animals, half natural, half mythical. Over these piers are the bracket supports of immense size combined with heavily carved entablatures. On these rests the ceiling, ornamented like an enormous lotus flower sunk into its surface. There is not um there is not the same uniform display of the carver's skill on all parts of the piers. Some are in bold relief, some are molded to appear almost like detachable members, and others are only engraved. The resulting effect is one of bewildering intricacy, which happily does not diminish the dignity of the columns. Ferguson's remark that the boldness and expression of the power displayed in the design and the carving of this columned portico is nowhere surpassed in the building of its class is an apt assessment of its character. The architectural quality of this porch left an abiding impress on future Dravidian temples like those at Chidambaram, Vellore, and Madurai, which are even more remarkable for their size and exuberance of carving. Another structure of superb workmanship within the enclosure but detached from the main temple is the Kalyana Mandapa or marriage pavilion. It consists of an open pavilion resembling the porch in front of the temple but much smaller in size. It has 48 pillars, which each one of which is an extraordinarily beautiful piece of workmanship. Facing the eastern entrance of the porch is another unique structure shaped like a ratha or temple car built entirely of stone. It has stone wheels which revolved and are highly realistic. The entire rath is an exquisite specimen of Vijayanagara craftsmanship and adds to the beauty of the main building both by its location and size. The Hazara Rama temple, whose construction was commenced in 1513 by Krishnadeva Raya, is a structure of modest dimension. It appears to have been built mainly by the use of imperial household, a sort of chapel royal. The main as well as the subsidiary structures of the Hazara Rama temple follow the same designs as Vithala temple. Special mention, however, must be made of the four central pillars in its mandapa or assembly hall for their unusual size and design. Their shafts have geometrical moldings, a cube alternating with a fluted cylinder with copiously carved, while each capital is substantial four branch foliated vault terminating in the characteristic knob. The Vimana, or the tower over the main building, which occupies the center of the courtyard, is rather unusual in that its lower story is of stone and the tampering tower is of brick. Its architectonic character consists of design of the shikara itself being repeated in regular groups, one upon another, in three tiers terminating in cupola at the top. Other famous temples of this style, more or less contemporaneous with Hampi examples, are ones at Vellore, Kumbakonam, Kamelipuram, Tatpatri, Virnijipuram, and Sriangam. The Kalyana Mandapa of the Vellore temple is remarkable for the ingenuity and the exuberance of its carving. We find here the revival of the lion motif. Alright. Common to the early Pallava group at Mamlapuram, displayed in the center pillars of this pavilion, the Varadaraja and Ekambarnatha temple at Kanchipuram have pavilions executed in the same style. The famous horse court of the Ranganathan temple at the Sri Rangam belonging to the late Vijayanagara period represents the culmination of this extravagant style in the 16th century. We have here the perfect specimen of the rearing horse motif. The steeds, nearly 9 feet high, are ferocious beasts rearing aggressively, and beneath their raised hoof is a composite statuary of soldiers with drawn swords and extended shields. We see in these pillars the Dravidian craftsmanship turning into fantastic and bizarre sanctuary. The original Pallava idea of the rampant animal as a decorative feature of the pillar, the technique of chiseling employed on the pillars of the horse court, is remarkable for the metallic finish it has given them. About 160 kilometers southeast of Hampi is Tadpatri, which is known for its two temples, the Chintala Venkata Ramanaswamy and Ramalinga Lingeshwara, both built in the same style during the first quarter of the 16th century. They have been cited here for the striking qualities of the architecture, which are rather unusual. While it was common practice to leave the perpendicular base of the Dravidian lower relatively plain, all the ornamentation being reserved for the pyramidal portion. In this case, the base is covered with extravagantly sculptured panels for sheer wealth of the ornamentation. They stand comparison with 12th century temple of Mysore. The Madurai phase from 1600 to 1700. The great Vijayanagara Empire, which owed its origin to Muslim aggression in the 14th century, was itself defeated and eclipsed in 1565 on the battlefield of Talikota by the confederacy of Muslim rulers of the Deccan. The artistic traditions of the Hindu, which so far flourished in the warmth of the royal patronage, now dependent for encouragement on the rulers of the new principalities, which had been originally united under Vijayanagara. Of the several states into which the empire splintered, the contribution of Madurai was by far the most significant for the further advancement of Dravidian style. The Tamil country, with Madurai as capital and extending as far as Kanyakumari, was ruled by the Nayaka dynasty, the final form from which the Dravidian style assumed under these rulers and flourishes to this day in principle to continuation of the building method of the Pandyas from 1150 to 1300, who lavished most of their skills and resources on the architecture of Gopuram and on extending and improving the shrines already in existence. Under the Navaka of Madurai, the temple came to be developed into a vast network of structures having imposing gateways and towers. The scheme of the growth in most cases can be chronologically traced into various stages, although examples are not wanting of entire temple scheme being planned and executed had witnessed great elaboration in temple festivals and ceremonies which involved the temple deity or deities being taken out in procession quite often. This had in turn necessitated considerable amplification in the building scheme of the temple. The complex of structure grew round the main shrine, which was under the nucleus, and developed occasionally into the dimensions of a minor township with residential houses and bazaars being located. It its outer enclosure naturally, therefore, the unity of design and architectural effect were sacrificed to the size and expansiveness. Pampapati Temple, Hampi. The open pillared portico Ardhamandapa of the Vithala temple Hampi, begun by King Krishnadeva Raya in AD 1513, its construction was still incomplete in 1565 when the Vijayanagara capital was sacked by the victorious Muslim coalition. With its voluptuous double flexured eaves and huge monolithic pillars carved into the intricate compositions of the sculpture and miniature pillars, the portico represents the skills of Vijayanagara builder at its best. Copper images of King Krishnadeva Raya and his royal consort Venkateshwara temple, Tirupati. The colossal image of Lakshmi Narasimha Hampi, the multilayered condition of the seated closures of the lion headed Vishnu, is not due to vandalism but the poor quality of granite, which tends to split and flake away when exposed to the sun. Barely 50 years ago, the seated image of Lakshmi, the divine consort, was intact. The stone Ratha, Vithala temple, Hampi. Plan of Meenakshi temple, Madurai. Just a quick question. Why? This is very out of context, but Akbar the Great was called so. Temples belonging to the Madurai group, built either wholly or in part during the period, are considerable in number. The most outstanding of them are those at Madurai, the Sri Rangam, Tiruvarur, Rameshwaram, Chidambaram, Tiruvinnali, Tirunamalai, Sirviputtara. The Meenakshi temple of Madurai can be taken as typical of the group, conceived and built all at one time. It is actually a double temple dedicated to Sundareshwara and his consort Meenakshi. Right. The outer walls enclosing the shrines and the other structures measure 259 times 221 meters, with four large gateways on the four sides. As we enter the main gateway by the east, we are led through pillared corridor into another gateway, surmounted by a gopuram. This gateway has its counterparts on the other three sides, and each has a gopuram smaller than the main one on the exterior walls. This inner enclosure is mostly covered by a flat roof. Within the second enclosure is a covered court with an entrance only to the east. In the third and the innermost enclosure, which has only one entrance on the east, is situated the sacred shrine, which consists of the familiar three compartments: the cellars, the vestibules, and the assembly halls. The sanctum has a small vimana rising above the flat roof of the other two compartments. All the courts in the hall situated within the three enclosures have colonnades of pillars of bizarre designs. The most exquisitely wrought pillar belonged to the covered court Swami Singhutanam, which is immediately outside the entrance to the innermost enclosure. There is all nearly 2000 pillars in Madurai temple, although they do not have the same florid exuberance of the Vijayanagara phobias. They retain a good deal of the vigor and the boldness of the completion. The simplest of them have square moldings, while the more intricate ones have rampant dragons, figures of the deities, or sculptures of the patron. For motifs, these figures sculpture attached to the main shafts are of more life size and quite elaborate to workmanship. The Padu Mandapa or Tirumalai Cholatri, situated outside the main enclosure and in front of the main gateway, was built between 1626 and 1633 by Tirumalai Nayak. It is a beautiful addition to the temple complex. All right. And is distinguished for its four rows of pillars which are elaborately carved. The shafts of the pillars, centrally situated in the halls, have attached to them 10 life size statues portraying the king of Nayaka dynasty. To the south of the main sanctuary is the shrine dedicated to Meenakshi, the consort of the deity. This structure, with its concentric uh, enclosure, is about half the size of the main shrine. In front of the Meenakshi temple is the beautiful pond of the golden lilies, whose waters reflect the great towers of the south entrance. There are all in 11 gopurams in the Madurai temple, the largest and the most beautiful of them being the one on the southern doorway. Taken singly, this is the most impressive of the structures belonging to Meenakshi temple, by far the most massive and ornate of the Dravidian gopurams. This tower is also very high, rising to a total height of about 60 meters. Its summit is a barrel roof with the usual chaitya gable at the ends. The lofty base and the concave curves of the whole structure gives it a soaring quality greater even than its height suggests. The central rib of the tower is a pile of miniature pavilions rising one upon another and adding greatly to its massiveness and strength. The surface is covered all over with plastic figures of deities and semi divine characters, freely from the inexhaustible Hindu mythology, and present the appearance of pulsating mass of masonry. Plan of Great Temple, Sri Rangam from the History of Indian and Eastern Architecture by Ferguson. Alright, bit complicated. 2.5 miles north of Trichupalli is Sri Rangam, an island formed by the two branches of the river Kaveri. It is famous for its Ranganatha temple, the largest of the Dravidian temples, and is dedicated to Vishnu and his recumbent form, unlike the Madurai temple. This only has one sanctuary, an ancient structure small in size and architecturally insignificant. As we see it today, with its 7 concentric enclosures, 21 gopurams, bazaars, and residential colonies laid out within its walls, it looks like a township than a temple. While the sanctuary date back to about 11th century, the surrounding enclosures and the pavilion inside were put up in the 17th and the 18th centuries. The sanctuary is a square apartment of no great architectural merit, and the cellars within each unusual quality of being circular, resembling the Chaitya Hall of the 13 gateways, which he axically to the main shrine north south to the least six are notable for their size and workmanship. Architecturally, the finest part of the temple is the Hall of Thousand Pillars, situated within the fourth enclosure. Its pillars are carved of old granite monoliths, a stupendous undertaking which impresses one not only by its size but the quality of craftsmanship. The horse court, which we have noticed earlier, is the best part of the pillared hall. Within the third enclosure are to be found the Garuda Mandapa, which is another beautiful pillared hall, and adjacent to it is the Surya Pushkarni, a covered pond named after the sun. At the northern end of the enclosure is the Chandra Pushkarni, the moon pond. The second enclosure has a covered court with pillared pavilions belonging in the same period and style but much smaller in size. It's the Jambukeshwara temple at the Tiruvanaikaval, situated above about a mile away from the great temple at Sri Rangam. It has 4 concentric enclosures, of which the two inner ones have covered courts. Although not comparable in size to the Ranganathan temple, it far surpasses it in beauty of the architecture. Another well known example of this style and of the same period is the Rameshwara temple near the Adams Bridge, which separates Sri Lanka from India. The site is hallowed by legendary association with Rama, the epic hero, who defeated Ravana, the demon king of the Lanka. This temple, like that at Madurai or Tanjore, was built on a settled plan but with results which are very different. While the Tanjore temple, which is hardly half the size of Rameshwara temple, produces the effect of an unified architectural entity, the latter fails to convey that impression. Like the Minakshi temple, the Rameshwara temple also consists of two shrines which are enclosed by 3 concentric walls. The outermost enclosure, which measures 268 meters in length and 205 in width, is a plain wall 6 meters high and is a 4 gopuram. The gopuram, which crowns the eastern entrance, is imposing, being 46 meters high. It is built in the best traditions of the 17th century. By far the grandest part of the Rameshwara temple are the pillared corridors which surround it. They extend to nearly 1220 meters in meters in length, the breadth varying from 5.2 to 6.4 meters. Their height from floor to roof is about 9 meters. The pillars, about 3.6 meters high each, are enormous blocks of granite, richly decorated and well proportioned, set close to one another. They run along the entire corridor. The perspective presented by these richly carved pillars running uninterruptedly to the length of about 210 meters in a breathtaking sight. The devoted patience of thousands of skilled craftsmen and the laborers of many more apprentices which have gone into the stupendous structure is a testimony to the religious fervor which characterized the builders of the 16th century. Equally venerated, no less remarkable for its architectural merit is the Nataraja temple at Chidambaram, the Arcot district. Hmm. Whose growth into its present dimension extended over a period of nearly 7 centuries. From the 10th to the 17th century, tradition has it that early in 10th century, Tucker, the Chola king, saw on the seashore a divine vision of Shiva who was attended by Parvati dance with the Maruka, a small drum. The king instantly decided to construct a Kanak Sabha, or the Golden Hall at Chidambaram, to commemorate this unique vision. Alright. The Nataraja temple consists of a number of structures apart from the main shrine. Although these were put up at various times as structural excretions to the main temple, they retain a surprising element of symmetry in plan and functional unity in their disposition. The center of the large enclosure is occasionally occupied by sacred tank Shiva Ganga, around which other structures are grouped in an orderly manner. The Hall of the Thousand Pillars, the Rajya Sabha, Hall of the Thousand Pillars, for which the temple is famous, was built in the 17th century. It consists, as elsewhere, of pillars carved out of granite monoliths. The finest part of the temple, however, is its porch, which consists of 56 pillars, each 2.4 meters high, all delicately carved. The stylobath on which they rest is ornamented with gracefully carved female figures in various dance poses. A few more comprehensive examples of later Dravidian style are to be found among other places: Tiruvarur, Tanjore district, Tiruvananthamalai, and Srivilliputturu, Tirunelveli district. The original shrine at the Tiruvarur dates back to the 9th century, and its deity has been the subject of praise in innumerable composition of great poetic excellence produced by the saint of Tamil Nadu. The temple consists of twin shrines dedicated to Shiva and his consort Parvati. They are placed side by side in a cloistered court, and three concentric walls enclose the entire complex of structure. The three storied eastern gateway, built in the 18th century, is the finest part of this temple. Here we see the pilasters, the sunk recesses, the rearing hypography, and the pillared niches enshrining sculpted images employed to the maximum aesthetic effect. The other temple are more or less repetitions of the same style with minor variations: tanks, pillared pavilions, and towering gopurams in the concentric compounds. Walls are the main characteristics. The temple of the Sri Villiputturu is famous for its massive gopuram, which is about 60 meters high. It is built in the 13 stories, exclusive of its barrel shaped roof. There are many temples of the 19th century built in the Dravidian style, structures which conform to the same pattern but which come nowhere near their predecessors in their size or architectural effect. The art of temple building is still known to many families in the South India, to whom it is the bequest from the generation of ancestors. Proof of their inherent talents is to be found in the innumerable towers and gopurams, which have been and are renovated by them. Although new constructions are not rare, religion is still a living force with the people, and it is not unusual for wealthy persons to demonstrate their piety by patronizing construction of new temples. Okay, we will be beginning this in the next section. How many pages? Yeah, this is a little extended. Fine.